It's always sad to see enjoyable, well-crafted movies fail to turn a profit theatrically, and over the course of the last year, these 10 brilliant films count amongst the most frustrating commercial calamities. With that in mind, I am Gareth, this is What Culture, and here are 10 awesome 2023 movies that didn't deserve to flop. Number 10, Killers of the Flower Moon. The fact that Killers of the Flower Moon exists at all is something to celebrate in 2023. A 3.5-hour epic crime drama from one of the few bona fide masters of the medium, Martin Scorsese. And to be fair to Apple, they totally knew what they were getting into when they gave Marty $200 million to make his latest masterpiece. Apple likely never expected it to rake in hundreds of millions of dollars theatrically, but rather serve as promotion for the film's upcoming release on their streaming service, Apple TV+. All the same, it's a damn shame that Scorsese's new film fell off a cliff after a solid opening weekend, and it likely won't even match its budget in box office receipts. Serious movies for adults have certainly struggled in recent years, and Killers of the Flower Moon's epic runtime surely made it so much easier for most to simply wait until it hits streaming sometime before year's end. Now I've got a quick question, what is your favourite Scorsese flick? Killers of the Flower Moon or something else? Let me know in the comment section down below. Number 9, Are You There God? It's Me, Margaret. The post-pandemic theatrical landscape has been supremely challenging for many genres, and coming-of-age dramedies have proven an especially tough nut to crack. With their generally modestly budgeted lack of spectacle, they scream waiting for streaming to many. And that was evidently why the brilliant Are You There God? It's Me, Margaret cratered at the box office. Despite its sensible $30 million budget, this adaptation of Judy Blume's seminal 1970 novel finished at just $21.5 million globally. A disastrous result for a rapturously reviewed adaptation of one of the most beloved coming-of-age novels of all time. Many chose to blame Lionsgate's admittedly sawdust dry marketing, which failed to emphasize the heart and humor of Kelly Freeman Craig's film, nor Rachel McAdams' standout performance. Between this and changing audience habits, it's easy to see why most chose to give this one a miss until it landed on streaming. Number 8, Beau is Afraid. Now to be fair, few were expecting Ari Aster's new horror comedy Beau is Afraid to be a stonking commercial success, but even so, that it ended its global run at just $11.5 million is absolutely disastrous. Compare this to the totals of Aster's previous films, Hereditary $82.8 million and Midsommar $48 million, and it's a staggering fall-off. This gets even worse when you consider that Beau's budget was $35 million, almost double the combined budgets of Hereditary and Midsommar. Aster's new film certainly isn't for everyone. It's a surreal and extremely challenging 3-hour epic, intentionally primed to unsettle the audience. And not even the star appeal of Joaquin Phoenix in the lead role could do much to move the financial needle. While it's easy to see this as A24 giving an auteur filmmaker a large budget to make his wild passion project, there's also no reality where the studio is happy with this outcome. Aster himself expressed disappointment with the film's commercial performance, and while few were expecting amazing numbers, to see such a creative and fascinating film so brutally rejected by all but the most die-hard cinema lovers is a damn shame. Number 7, Joyride. Comedy is another genre that struggled theatrically in recent years, and that goes double when they're R-rated. Case in point, Adele Leem's Joyride released to strongly positive reviews, yet ended up grossing just $15.2 million, not even half its $32 million budget. Despite its refreshingly raunchy tone and killer ensemble cast, Lim's film underperformed in its opening weekend and never really recovered. First and foremost, you can point to the difficulty of making audiences turn up for comedies on the big screen these days, but also the lack of major stars involved, and perhaps also some of the movie's more visually graphic moments turning some audiences away. That Jennifer Lawrence's No Hard Feelings released mere weeks earlier and managed to gross $87.1 million is a testament to the role star power plays in marketing multiplex comedies today, and alas, Joyride just didn't have that. Number 6, Air. Much like Apple with Killers of the Flower Moon, Amazon couldn't have possibly expected that a $90 million drama about the origins of the Air Jordan shoe, without Michael Jordan depicted in a major capacity no less, would turn a profit theatrically. Ultimately, despite rave reviews and Oscar buzz, Air topped out at $90 million worldwide. which would have been a fine result had Ben Affleck's sports film been made for a more disciplined $20 to $40 million. But with the price tag just shy of that afforded to John Wick Chapter 4, it never stood a chance. But given that Air was originally supposed to release direct to Amazon Prime, while foregoing a theatrical release entirely, things certainly could have been much worse. And the huge budget at least resulted in many involved with the project netting some of their biggest paydays of their careers. Good for them. Amazon was clearly most interested in driving subscribers to their streaming service with this movie. Yet the murkiness of success in the streaming era makes it tough to discern whether their $90 million spend on Air, as well as $40 to $50 million marketing it, was actually worthwhile or not. Number 5. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now some might contest that a movie which grosses $567.5 million worldwide can't possibly be considered a flop. But the most recent Mission Impossible film is something of a special case. For starters, due to the pandemic severely impacting production, Dead Reckoning Part 1's budget ballooned to $291 million. And with the typical rule that blockbusters need to make 2.5 times their price tag to be successful, it needed to hit $727.5 million, which it fell far short of. As many predicted that Tom Cruise's latest stuntathon would be one of the year's most successful films, and perhaps even nudge the franchise into billion-dollar territory for the first time. For it to not even crack $600 million is a pretty shocking disappointment. Dead Reckoning Part 1 may not have hit the heights of predecessor Fallout, but it's still a slick, well-crafted, thoroughly entertaining romp, albeit one that had a number of underestimated factors working against it. Beyond its bloated budget, it had much of its momentum stifled by the Barbenheimer phenomenon. The marketing felt fairly ordinary for the series and gave too much of the marquee stunts away, and of course the Part 1 designation may have prompted some to wait and watch it at home ahead of Part 2. To that latter point, recent reports indicate that the film's underperformance has scared Paramount enough that the sequel is ditching the two-part gambit entirely and will be retitled prior to release. And because that creates something of an awkward situation for a Part 1 that'll have no Part 2 following it, expect Dead Reckoning Part 1 to be renamed to merely Dead Reckoning in the near future. Number 4. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. The Covenant is one of the year's most pleasant surprises so far. A war film from Guy Ritchie which ditches the filmmaker's signature cheeky style for a far more serious-minded and surprisingly affecting drama, topped by terrific performances from Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim. Hell, it even snagged an A cinema score, indicating it could become a breakout box office hit, but it never came to pass, with the film concluding its run with an atrocious $21.8 million worldwide, against a $55 million budget no less. Despite the appeal of both Ritchie and Gyllenhaal, the general success of war movies at the box office, and seemingly sensible-ish budget considering the genre, The Covenant died on the vine. There are a few obvious factors to blame. First and foremost, MGM's marketing spend was clearly tiny, and by sending it out into just 2,611 cinemas in the US, a low number for a war movie with an A-list lead, they didn't even attempt to maximize its commercial potential. It may also be that a serious war film from Guy Ritchie of all directors simply threw audiences for a loop, that they didn't know what to expect from it. Either way, it deserved to do so much better than this. Number 3. Dumb Money. It's just a bit too easy to make jokes about Sony's ironically titled Dumb Money, a comedic dramatization of 2021's GameStop short squeeze from the reliable Craig Gillespie. Yet given that it's actually a smart, entertaining, well-acted movie, the fact that it tanked at the box office isn't really something to relish at all. Even with a sensible $30 million price tag considering the talent involved, Dumb Money recouped barely half its budget, netting just $16.8 million. Prior to its release, many commented that it looked like a streaming movie, and for as fun as the trailers made it out to be, it simply didn't tout enough of anything to convince audiences en masse to leave their homes for it. That and the lack of prominent awards buzz at this time of year likely sealed its fate theatrically. Number 2. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Amid low expectations, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves released to effusively positive reviews, and even nabbed an A- cinema score from those who actually bothered to see it. Against a hefty $150 million budget, the big screen D&D adaptation grossed just $208.2 million, barely half of what it needed for Paramount to confidently greenlight a sequel. It wasn't a perfect film by any means, but it had enormous reverence for the source material, a ton of heart, and committed performances from its ensemble cast. This had all the makings of a hit on paper, yet folks just didn't show up for it. You You can blame so-so marketing and a poor release date, hitting cinemas days before the Super Mario Bros. Movie sucked all the oxygen out of the room, yet Paramount's biggest mistake was the excessive budget. Greenlighting a mega-budget D&D movie was a choice, and they probably should have scaled it back to a more modest price tag of around $70 to $100 million. But you live, you learn. Number 1, Infinity Pool. Nobody was expecting killer numbers from Brandon Cronenberg's new sci-fi horror film Infinity Pool, but even so, it absolutely deserved to make more than $5.2 million. While the movie's budget hasn't ever been officially disclosed, it's fair to guess that it sits somewhere in the $15 to $20 million range. And with it releasing in 1,835 cinemas in North America, Neon likely expected it to perform considerably better, especially with even niche horror making money hand over fist these days. With its tantalizing premise, stellar cast, especially Mia Goth, and utterly entrancing execution, Infinity Pool had the makings of a moderate hit against its budget, especially as it avoided the expected F cinema score often afforded to left-field horror films, instead landing a more reasonable C+. But Cronenberg's movie barely made a dent on the big screen, with most interested parties evidently deciding to watch it at home. What a damn shame. And that's our list. Know of any other awesome 2023 movies that didn't deserve to flop? Well, let us know all about them in the comment section right down below. And I've been Gareth from WhatCulture.com. Cheers for checking out this movie video today. Hopefully I'll see you again very soon, but in the meantime, just be good to yourself. Bye bye!